Good evening, party people in the place to be. Happy Veterans Day to all those who served the country yesterday. Hope you all had a great day yesterday. And this week we are focusing on politics and the national election that's coming up in 2024. It is less than a year away. Sadly, it's going to get worse from here. So, uh, Dan Fishman joining us from Maryland. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, feeling dandy. I want to talk just quickly on the Veterans Day thing. Larry Sharp deserves credit for the phrase, but instead of saying thank you for your service, I like to say to veterans, I'm glad you made it home. Not
Exactly.
everybody did.
Exactly. And joining us from Tennessee, AJ Campbell. How you doing?
I am all right.
All right.
I've survived another week in
I,
Tennessee of all places.
well, I mean, it feels like we survived another week in America. Um, this kind of roving clown show that we've got going on, which is going to get worse over the next year as
What's up, Joe?
we have gotten into. Why are the comments not showing? What's up, Joe? How you doing, sir? Oh no, he's on Facebook, huh? Maybe having issues from Facebook again, but good to see you as well, sir. So yeah, we are less than a year from the 2024 presidential election and all the other federal elections. Of course, being 2024, you're probably going to have hundreds of local county elections going on as well. Your mailboxes are going to be full. Your TV is going to become unwatchable, and at least watching any form of live TV, even some of these
Sports.
streaming services.
Sports is crushing.
Oh my god, yeah.
It
Um,
actually, what's interesting about it is I watched the Amazon game, uh, not this Thursday because that was after the election, but the one beforehand. It is amazing to me. Like, I mean, I know I should have realized it, but like how specific it is because they know it's me, right?
yeah,
So they don't actually have a national feed or broadcast of ads or anything. I mean, some of the stuff I get is national, but I get a lot of very specific ads, Maryland based things like that. That
start the chat overlay.
crazy and Virginia political ads.
Oh my god. So, um, a lot of ads, like what drives me nuts about Virginia political ads is you got folks spending money. And I know that you can target ads and use cable and things like that to make more targeted ad buys, making them much more sensible. Um, but the problem with that is you're spending money to in the DC media market to put a ad on for a state senate or state house of delegates race that pays like 20 grand a year.
Right.
This tells me you're not going to be very fiscally responsible when you get down to your gig in Richmond if you're a Virginia voter, or Charleston here in West Virginia. It's amazing.
Right. And the fact that the job pays nothing, but you control a budget that
Oh
I
yeah.
think the Virginia budget's something like $10 billion.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a reason why they get that kind of money. There was a state senate race here in West Virginia, in the Eastern Panhandle a few years ago that was so annoying that I ended up, writing in a name because I hated both of them by the end of the race. Like the both candidates were just, yeah, every day you'd come home and there would be four mailers in your mailbox. One would be extolling the virtues of the candidate. The other one would be extolling the virtues of the other candidate. And then you'd have two that would
Attack
tell
ads.
you that the other candidate is the devil incarnate. And uh, this was every day, and sometimes twice a day. Sometimes you'd have like 8 of them built up in your mailbox, and you're just like, "This is ridiculous." They spent over a $500,000 on this race, and West Virginia is one of the lowest. There's no difference between what
IQ.
that's well,
No, sorry.
there's no difference between what the state house and the state senate make. Um, it, They jumped so much money into that race. In a state that there's just Republicans all over the place here. Like there's it's not a competitive state by any stretch of the imagination. Um, but still, they dumped just a ton of money on this race, and it's
Right.
ridiculous.
I mean, they're spending money. They're spending the money because they think that there's a payout. They're not
Oh yeah,
doing it for civic good or anything like that.
no,
And I mean, it's terribly cynical. But what's interesting is that at least with Amazon, I didn't get any of the Virginia political ads because they knew I couldn't vote in them.
yeah.
But
I didn't get the Virginia political ads unless I turned on
the broadcast
local
television,
news. Yeah, if I turned on local news, local channels, I got just inundated. And if I watch CNN also, because we're in the DC media market,
right?
and if you're watching a news channel, I'm sure if I was watching Fox or MSNBC, same thing would have happened, that you would have been inundated with those ads because they were targeted so much that they end
Right.
up going to those channels to do things. And it is interesting being in the DC media market because even like ESPN Plus, I'll watch a college football game, and the entire game I'm being lobbied about a certain tax on research and development, some pharmaceutical research and development uh, PAC is paying money for these ads to lobby Congress, on behalf of them to get rid of this R&D tax. And had no idea about this whole thing that they're talking about. But every commercial I had at least one of these ads in there. Um, I mean, it's brutal when they get onto these sports broadcasts because they don't sell a lot of especially if you're watching. Like I watched my college, so Kennesaw State University doesn't have a lot of eyes watching in West Virginia on this ad, so I get a lot of these political ads and not much else. So
Yeah, it's crazy. And of course, there've been a couple polls out recently that have encouraged both sides to start spending more money. I think the
sure.
biggest one we were talking about earlier is the poll that shows that Biden is losing to Trump. However, that a generic Democrat would beat Trump, and a generic Democrat would beat Joe Biden
Yeah.
because of Biden's sort of negatives in the place. Now, the thing was, as an example of why this is a problem, when he was told about the result that generic Democrat was leading the polls, Joe Biden was excited about that. And his staff were like, why? He's like, I'm the oldest guy in the race. They're like, generic is not geriatric. Geriatric Democrat, that's you. Generic Democrat
Oh,
is, and they have a model. Generic Democrat is a 43-year-old cis white male, income around $75,000, shops on Amazon, doesn't feel good about it, and recycles but won't sort things. I made all that up. That's
yeah.
my comedy bit for the evening.
That
Well,
was pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that here are two things that I know. That if the Democrats nominated almost anybody other than Joe Biden, they would win this election hands down.
Easily. Yes, exactly.
If the Republicans nominated somebody that wasn't Trump or somebody who's trying to
Hmm.
be Trump, I still think that there are a couple of folks in this race that, if they got nominated, are going to struggle if they were going up against a generic, put this
Yeah.
name here, Democrat. Like Ramaswamy, I think would have issues.
Yeah.
DeSantis, I think would have issues. Um,
DeSantis has all the issues.
Yeah, DeSantis has that's a statement in and of itself, but, um,
Right.
yeah, I think that that's what we've gotten with American politics is that we've gone this race to the bottom of just absolutely awful candidates, and these parties are so beholden to protecting the, you know, I don't know if you call it the establishment, but at least, the guy that's running, they'll protect the incumbent. And, Trump to them is kind of a quasi incumbent because, to a lot of these idiots, they don't think he lost in
Well, because he won, and it's important to remember the really important thing that Trump represents, which is that he is not a Bush or a Clinton.
Yes.
And I know we've talked about this before, but we'll throw it out there to the audience. Prior to Donald Trump winning in 2016, when was the last time there was an election without an incumbent that had neither a Bush nor a Clinton on the ticket in the race? And so, we look 2016. Well, so 2012, Barack Obama's the incumbent. 2008, you actually have Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton both running for president, right? 2004 is incumbent. 2000, George Bush is running. 96 is an incumbent. 92, Clinton is running. And actually, 92 is the middle of the term. George Bush is the incumbent. It goes back even further than that, because 1980, George Bush runs for president. And 1976, Gerald Ford is the incumbent. You have to go back to 1972 to have an election. Sorry, 1968 to have an election without an incumbent that doesn't have a Bush or a Clinton in it. And so, to many people, that's what Donald Trump was this break in the idea of traditional politics, or what it means to the Republican Party too. Who's the last Republican to get elected president without either a Bush or a Nixon on the ticket?
That would have to be Herbert Hoover.
Herbert Hoover. You have to go 90 years back to find a Republican that gets elected without either a Bush or a Nixon on the ticket. That's insane.
I mean, I understand that people thought that, electing Trump, you're getting out of the dynastic succession that we've had with our politics. But the problem is, Trump wants to be that dynasty in and of himself.
Does.
He wants to pass this down to his kids.
Yeah.
Now, of course, his kids are flipping on him, but that's a whole other discussion that we can have. But be careful what you wish for. And yeah, I don't want another Bush running things. I don't want another Clinton running things. We've had our fill. There's 330 million people in the United States. There's got to be somebody that not named Bush, Clinton, or Trump that can run, can at least be a decent president.
It's interesting to think that we are woefully behind the times in the fact that we've only ever elected Christian white men as president, right?
Yeah.
England's way ahead of us, right? The current prime minister, Rishi Sunak, is Indian of ethnicity. They have had several women serve as prime minister. They even elected a Jewish fella back in the late 1800s.
I think it's easier in a parliamentary democracy to do that because you have
exactly
prime minister so often. So
there's definitely something to that. Pakistan has elected a woman.
India's elected a woman.
Yep. Israel. It's crazy, right? At New Zealand, Australia, all these other places. But maybe there's an option here, because like if I were to say, who are the best candidates that I want to see run against each other, I'd like to say that from the mainstream parties, if we could get a Nikki Haley versus Kamala Harris race.
God, I hate Kamala Harris, though.
I'm not fond of either of them, but the idea that there are two immigrants women running for president, that's a major change for us as a
Oh,
country.
sure. Yeah. I
So because I can't believe the Democrats are really planning on running Biden, right? I mean, how stupid do you have to be?
I think they've gotten to the point where they think it doesn't matter who we put up because the other side's gonna put up Trump. I think I think
Well,
if
I mean, that
Kamala
was the
comes
plan, right? That was Hillary Clinton's plan,
yeah,
right? That's why they promoted Trump.
yeah,
I mean, as much as
they
anybody
want the
else,
airtime.
Hillary Clinton is responsible for Donald Trump getting elected because their campaign specifically promoted him as the thing. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. Right, right. I mean, it would have been nice because I think RFK really would have done pretty well in the Democratic primary.
No, I don't think I think he's gonna do much better as an independent, of course, ballot access issues aside,
Right.
because if you're a Democrat, you're not really voting for RFK. That's
Voting against
kind
Joe
of
Biden.
yeah, you're voting against Joe Biden, um, and, if RFK wants to have much more impact in the election, he's gonna have he wants to have access to Republican voters because I think he probably has more following amongst Republican voters, especially if Donald Trump gets knocked out of the race by some, legal issues or whatever,
Yeah.
constitutional issues. There's gonna be much more footing for RFK, in the race. I don't think that he's got a whole lot of popularity amongst primary voting Democrats.
Well, it's true in that the primary voters are
Yes.
the rank and file.
Yeah.
They are the people who go every day, and so there's something to that. I don't know that. Yeah, it's exactly like that, Obi.
It's true. Yeah, it's
Um,
protection.
yeah, in fact, it's a particularly apt analogy because the teachers union would agree with that as well, and they think that they're the ones who, in addition to electing the president, keep the metric system down and do the other things that they do. Um, I don't know. It's going to be, but I still, I honestly can't believe that there's going to be Joe Biden running for office because, I mean, first of all, I mean, you think about the fact, right? That man has an arch enemy in stairs, right? He
Oh,
slipped
he's
through.
not the first president to have an issue with stairs.
Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford had
Mm,
massive issue
I
with
have an issue with stairs.
this
I
is
fall up the
I've
stairs all the time.
I mean, fair,
I do.
fair. He, I don't know.
no, I look, Joe Biden should have retired. Should have just stepped back after
Half of
serving
the
his
government should have
oh, I
retired
know.
like 15 years
Yeah.
ago.
I mean, he's one of all these folks like Mitch McConnell, recently deceased Dianne Feinstein,
Oh
Well,
all of
my
these
gosh.
how about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right?
yeah,
Right?
well,
Absolutely.
like half
Libertarian.
Absolutely.
the
She should have she should have stepped down when a Democratic president
and
was
so
available to put in.
Right.
I mean, she absolutely should have.
When she was only 82 years old.
yeah,
She gosh,
yeah,
for all the good that she did as far as I'm concerned personally,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
like I'm so angry that the majority of the problems in this country are by people that are not affected by the shit that they're causing. They're absolutely not affected, not just because they are in the tax bracket that the majority of us are never going to reach, but also because they're so old. They're not going to be around
Right.
for all of this. That's why okay, like what happened in Ohio where
Yeah.
they put abortion on the ballot.
Yep.
What
And
happened?
right.
The
the
people that are
liberal side.
actually affected by abortion showed up. It's not a sexy issue, but yeah, they showed up.
Yeah,
I
I
just,
mean,
gosh, I'm just so tired of the old people. I'm just so tired.
well,
It
and it's
was
interesting to say that it's not just liberals. It's really say free thinkers showed up,
yeah.
right? People
Well,
who
one
go
of
ahead.
one of the most interesting demographics that showed up for that Ohio election was dads. Fathers showed up and voted for it because yeah, yeah, if you're a dad, even a teenage son or teenage daughter, it doesn't really matter because that's an issue that's going to affect you possibly. Um,
Mhm.
and so forcing a child to carry a pregnancy to term will impact their lives. And men are fairly Republican. They
Well,
are generally, but
Or
this is an
unfairly
issue.
Republican.
Yeah, this is generally an issue that you would think that men would not have an issue with, but it's turning out all over the country. You're not just talking about. I mean, Ohio is it's a trending Republican state,
Yeah, but it's
but
hardly R plus 10.
Kansas, Kansas voted
Yep.
for abortion rights.
Fucking Brashear got reelected in Kentucky,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
right? Right.
This
I mean,
on
doesn't
that
that
issue.
you wanna say, dads turned out and that was dads don't want to end up being single dads either, because everybody's thinking about the unwanted pregnancy. What about the wanted pregnancy that ends and then the mother dies because they can't go any further than they need to save her life? Like, dads showing up, they didn't just show up for their daughters or their sons, they showed up for their wives
Sure.
because
yep.
they don't want to be single parents.
Yeah.
I saw so many guys online talking about this, and I was like, this is a phenomenal thing." I mean, they are thinking because they've watched the nightmares and they've realized that, "Oh, that can happen here. That that could happen."
Right.
Um, it's barbaric. It's barbaric that it can't be happen.
Right.
Joe, you're not
And
that old.
yeah, well, I mean,
I
exactly.
don't think I would disagree with you in the government either. Hell yeah, put Joe there. I trust
Right.
Yeah,
Joe.
Right. I mean, people of Pennsylvania screwed up when they didn't elect Joe governor.
that's
Absolutely,
right.
and I donated to that campaign, so yeah, Joe, anytime, sir, I'll be happy to donate again.
Right. But you're right that it is this this fundamental disconnect. And the interesting thing about it is, I don't think that much of the Republican Party heard the message, which is where it
Me too,
gets
Joe.
interesting. In that, I mean, that's the part that I think Nikki Haley, it's their last chance. If they nominate Rhonda, that
Or Trump.
is, huh?
Or Trump or Vivek or
Yeah. I
oh,
mean,
actually, I'll
Vivek is out. That TikTok thing,
he's an
that's
idiot.
insane. That was the insane thing. For people who didn't watch the debate, Vivek said, "Nikki Haley, I've been stalking your daughter on TikTok, and I think that some of those outfits that she wears are completely inappropriate, especially the dress that she was wearing in my dream last night. Completely inappropriate." All right, I might be exaggerating again a little bit,
Wow.
but
I was like, "Did he really say that?" I didn't even watch the debate.
he
I
I didn't
can't do
watch
it.
the debate.
he criticized Nikki Haley's daughter for the content of her
Oh
TikTok.
my god.
And
Oh,
Leave
wow.
kids alone. I don't care
but
So,
then
how
the
bad
thing
you
about it is
does she not have policies that he could attack? Is that
Nikki
the
Ha-
problem?
Nikki Haley responded by saying, "Keep my daughter's name out of
you know.
Never mind.
Did he
keep
s
my
My mouth's
daughter's
like,
have
"You
name."
you
scum," or
No, no, she said, "Keep my daughter's name out of your voice," which was the closed captioning in Japan of when Will Smith yelled at.
oh my god. Closed
But
captioning is kinda awful.
yeah, so I think Vivek though is fairly done
I
for.
don't I
good.
mean,
He's awful.
there's as long as they're in the race and let's do our, breaking news. Where's that?
Oh yeah,
just saw tonight that Senator Tim Scott of the state of South Carolina has dropped out of the presidential race. So one less South Carolinian in the
Wow.
race.
When news breaks, we fix it.
We don't fix shit. We just make fun of it.
I mean, it should be said, Tim Scott was notable for being an African American who ran as a Republican.
Yes.
Herman Cain before him, but in general, there haven't been a lot on the national stage.
A lot of national stage. I mean, well, who was the former Oklahoma quarterback that was a representative?
Oh, and obviously, right.
I
Herschel
can't
Walker
remember.
certainly had national prominence, but
Well, that was
a
a
local race.
dumpster fire.
Good job, Chase.
But anyway, so that removes one of the I'm going to air quotes here, sane candidates from the race. Um, you know, I would be happier if a Vivek dropped out of the race or a Ron DeSantis dropped out of the race. Um, so far, we've gotten Tim Scott out of the race. Tim Scott, the danger with being on the sane side is that he is boring in comparison to the clown show that is Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, all trying to outdo each other in their pronouncements of stupidity. So yeah, one less at least adult voice in the room. It may help Nikki Haley to an extent, but still, everyone is so far behind Donald Trump. It's really kind of
Right.
we need a legal intervention
Well,
here.
as Trump said during the debate, during the other thing that he was doing while nobody was watching the debate, he's like, I'm polling at 65%. Why would I show up for a debate? And he's right.
Yeah, there is no reason for him to do
Yep.
so. He can at this point walk to the nomination.
Yeah. I mean,
How
he
is
can make
this
the argument.
real?
He can make the argument saying, look, you guys are wasting everybody's money by still running. He's like, if you really want to beat Joe Biden, Donald Trump, this is my advice to you. I would make a speech and say, if you guys really want to beat Joe Biden, it's time to stop dividing our forces because the race is over. The primary is over. And I, Donald Trump, have won.
He's won, but I will guarantee you.
But if he goes to jail in March, which Asa Hutchinson said he would, then it's interesting. I mean, I know Dershowitz already filed an appeal an opinion saying that you can run for president.
You can, and I think that debate would be absolutely fascinating. It would be the first prison debate where
He wouldn't do it.
Joe would be on one side of the glass, and Donald Trump would be on the other side of the glass. That had the phones up, and at the end of the day, the debate, Trump
Right.
put his hand up on the glass, and
Oh,
we'll wait for you, Donald.
this is what happens when you elect a reality TV star to the
But
White
Trump is
House.
not. Trump still wouldn't debate.
No,
I mean, what's also weird though is that there's a lot of Republicans who have said, I agree with you, Joe. There's a lot of Republicans who have said that if Trump is indicted, they're going to vote for Biden, which is weird. Like they're so anti-establishment Republican that they vote Democrat before they would vote for Rhonda or Nikki. Just
yeah,
crazy.
it's going to be interesting because I just don't see the Republicans abandoning Donald Trump, even if he gets convicted. I just don't see with him so far ahead. And I think if they do abandon him, it's going to be to one of these other nutters. So that's why I'm not keeping Vivek out of the race because, they throw their support to Vivek. The Donald Trump crowd throws their support to Vivek. Then, Vivek wins the nomination.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you could see that happening where Trump says, okay, you know what? I'm elected. I'm going to support Vivek. Everybody should support him. And then when he gets elected, he'll pardon me.
Yeah, because I don't think I don't think he'd throw his support to Ron DeSantis. I think they've ignored too much. And for Donald Trump, it's a one-way street. He abused several candidates in the last election who then in turn showed fealty to him.
Small hands.
Showed
Mhm.
fealty to him after that election. Lindsey Graham, Rand Paul,
Ted
Marco
Cruz.
Rubio.
Cruz,
Marco Rubio.
Marco Rubio. I
Ted
mean,
Cruz.
just absolutely excoriated these folks. And
Yeah.
after
Mhm.
after the election, they come hat in hand to this dude. Um, Ron DeSantis did not do that because he's competing for these same folks,
Right.
and um, he won't. I don't think Trump would throw his support to him. So yeah, I would look at a guy like Vivek Ramaswamy who's not taken Donald Trump to task as
No, he's been
he's not
kicking.
gonna, he's not going to throw it to Chris Christie by any stretch of the imagination or
No,
Asa Hutchinson.
and it's interesting because, if I think for any sane person, if you didn't know anything about their history and you
I don't
just
know, man.
judged them on debate performance, Chris Christie's been the winner. Nikki Haley's been second. Maybe DeSantis has been third.
I think we're judging it from our thoughts of what a debate should look like.
But we're smarter than the rest of the Republican Party.
Oh yeah, if
I
you're
agree with that statement right there.
if you're scoring debates,
Right.
yeah,
You
Christie's done
I-
well, Haley's done well, but
here's the thing. If there were merchandise that could encourage people to not vote Republican, I think that would be a public service.
sure, there would be.
Yeah.
And if you go to Lou Dog,
Funny that you say that.
Oh, there is stuff?
scan that QR code right there.
Well, hang on here.
You scan the QR code. There's plenty of great stuff that not only political deep dive stuff, but
I want you to notice my dexterity at getting the QR code in the reflection of the camera.
That is good.
pretty
That is
I'm very
solid.
proud of myself.
impressive.
Pretty solid. Yeah. But scan that QR code. It takes you to AJ's store on Etsy.
Yes, on
And,
Etsy.
I
I have a couple of different collections. I do have the political deep dive collection. There's also the Never Vote Republican Again collection because I'm in Tennessee and never vote Republican again. Like it's just a terrible idea.
and
We are a really good example.
there is no truth to the rumor that the political deep dive speedos were previously worn by me. That is a damn lie.
But if I wanted one that were previously worn by you, could I get that for a premium payment?
I already sent those to you, man.
All right.
This took a turn. This took a turn.
Yeah, check out that. It has tons of good merchandise for not only
Yeah.
political deep dive, but if you're not in the mood for voting for Republicans, there's some good stuff there. So, but
So-
yeah,
It's interesting as we could look forward to sort of where this shit show is going. On the other side, the Democrats have not done any better.
oh yeah, they're marching into oblivion as well.
They know that they have a terrible candidate, but because the two of them together have locked down the election process so intensely, I mean, it's interesting. So I'm having lunch tomorrow with a presidential candidate whose name happens to be Lars. And we're talking a little bit about, sort of where they're going, what they're doing, and what do you do if suddenly things break your way? Because the worst thing that can happen to a campaign, especially to a third party campaign, is to catch that lightning in a bottle and have no idea what you do with it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's good advice.
yeah. And so it's an interesting thing. Well, and frankly, Lars is better at that sort of planning than I am. That's right. She, if I can quote the bunk, shit, motherfucker. I have been rewatching The Wire, and that's excellent.
Nice.
But it does seem like there is, and I said this in 2016, the Republicans and Democrats couldn't run two worse candidates. And then, of course, hold my beer.
I mean, yeah, honestly,
And they took that
at
as
this
a
point,
challenge.
Right.
at this point, they're no longer going to the bottom of the barrel. They punched through the bottom of the barrel, and they're continuing to dig to the core of the earth.
Right.
Like at some point, they're going to hit liquid magma and cause a volcano.
Yeah. I mean, they created a system in which the most loyal to the party gets rewarded. But that is almost the opposite of what makes you a good candidate. And so, if somebody is going to break the system, but still win within the system, then it has to be the person who appeals to the most psychotic elements of the party, the most fanatical elements of the party. And so that's what Trump did. It wouldn't shock me. I guess it would a little bit, but like, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen to the squad right now because they're on the outs. And for those who aren't familiar, the squad is throwing it to you, Dave.
It's AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Presley,
Yep.
and
Ilhan Oman.
Ilhan Omar. Yeah.
It-
But here's what what happens to them. They're going to get primaried probably. I don't know. The AOC gets. She might get primaried.
I
She's
think that she
survived
will
primary
because it's New York. And
But
I
she's
mean,
also survived a lot of primary challenges already. The party wants to get her out, but I just think that she's kind of
yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that she's in a much more delicate position than she's ever been in before
Mhm.
because of New York and the demographics of her constituency and, where she is on the current muckety muck.
Yes.
It's going to be hard. It's hard to win in Queens with the Jewish vote against you. Now, what's interesting about it is, could she win against a Republican? Probably.
Probably, unless you get George Santos running that district.
But could she win against a good Democrat? Could she win against, for example, Ezra Klein? Pretty famous journalist, lives in that area.
I mean, here's the thing. They're on the outs because it's easier to put them on the outs.
Right.
Because the Democrats are the minority party in the House now. So if they lose those 4 votes, it's not a big thing because they're probably going to lose whatever vote is happening.
Right.
But let's say, because not only in 2024 do we have the presidential election, but all 435 House members are up for reelection. But
Well,
look at
435 voting members plus the 2 non-voting members.
I think it's like 5 now.
Is it
5?
All right.
It's the territories like Northern Marianas Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, and
Fair.
a couple of and DC and somewhere else.
Yeah.
But American Virgin Islands, that's the other one. But there is if you go by Cook Political Report, you go by if you understand all the gerrymandering that's gone on in the House, I'm pulling it up now in the Cook Political Report. There are like 24 competitive races that
Right.
they have listed.
Out of 435.
Out of 435. Everything else is leans or is solid within either one of the parties.
Now,
And you made the point about how these two have kind of locked down the parties when it comes to the presidential. And I think we, coming from third parties, we understand how the political system can get locked down and Democrats may cry about it, Republicans may cry about it, but I don't really have much of a sympathetic ear to them because they've locked down the political system so that you can only see Republicans or Democrats.
right. But now, of course, where that becomes interesting is that we're having this conversation like we're all on the outside and speculating about what's going to happen. But Dave, I think you're being a little coy here because my understanding is that the no labels ticket is going to be Joe Manchin and Robert Kennedy, and you are going to be the campaign manager.
No,
No?
absolutely not. No.
Well,
There's no way.
Let's look at the facts. Joe Manchin is not running for Senate, right?
Yeah, because he was going to lose in West Virginia anyway.
Fact. Number two, Joe Manchin said he would be exploring additional possibilities,
Yeah.
right? He said he would be touring the country trying to find a way to unite the various factions, right?
Yeah.
That's A, B, and C. A, B plus C adds up to D, which means Dave.
No,
Dave comes on board.
no, not at all. So here's the thing. If you hate the fact that Donald Trump and Joe Manchin are in their 80s, Joe Manchin's only he's like 76. So yes, a
Yeah,
spring chicken
he is.
compared to those two. But
Right.
I mean, still older than Reagan was when he left the presidency. So let's I'm not real keen on Joe Manchin running for president. I he's leaving because he knows he's gonna. I'm sure he's seen enough polling in West Virginia, and as the last Democrat standing in the state, um, knows that there's no chance that he wins re-election. Whether he's running against our favorite governor.
Fucking follow
There it
the
is.
guidelines.
Yeah, our favorite governor, Jim Justice, or there's a cavalcade of clowns running for that. Oh, our missing representative Alex Mooney, also running for that Senate seat. Uh, hard to root for either one of those guys, but the Democrats really have nobody in their farm to really put up in this race.
Right.
They got the Huntington mayor to agree to run for governor, and he's a fairly libertarian mayor.
Sure.
But there's a handful of state senators a handful of state senators and a handful of state house members that I don't think are going to leave their jobs because they're really the last people standing in the state for their party.
Right.
So yeah, I mean it's going to be a very red year
But-
in West Virginia, and that's why he
Yes.
left.
Do you think that he will be exploring some sort of national?
I do.
I mean, he's
but I
been
think- I
pretty
don't
high
know that-
profile.
He's got a high profile. I think he's going to convince a couple other. Um, the rumor is Romney is one of those. Again, another septuagenarian.
Yeah.
Larry Hogan's been bantied about, the
Sure.
Maryland governor. It's interesting that Kirsten Sinema,
Yep.
former Democrat in
Arizona.
Arizona, that went independent. There's a couple of independent Democrats in the Senate. There are people with national profiles that you could probably put in there. I just don't think it is. I don't think Manchin is the voice to really galvanize people that would not vote for Democrats or Republicans.
Mhm. Fair enough. All right.
I think he's going to put his name out there, but I think I think if No Labels is smart, they're going to go with somebody that kind of excites people, because the other problem with No Labels and with Carnell West and Robert Kennedy is that they don't have ballot access anywhere right now.
Right.
And that, and probably not even focusing on that. And that was, our complaint when we saw the Forward Party come out, is that they really didn't focus on ballot access in the states that they're getting into. They're not running a presidential candidate. I would assume that Forward kind of tacitly approves the No Labels candidate if
Yeah.
they're able to get, on ballots in many states. But No Labels is going to have to hit the ground running, January 1st, because a bunch of states start their petitioning process.
Yep.
And there is no way that they are going, you're going to have people even look at you if you're not on enough ballots to be theoretically elected president, because we've been on 50 state ballots in the last two elections, and we didn't get a sniff of the debates. And there's it's likely that the candidates will not get a sniff of the debates.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I agree with that, and I agree that the debates seem to be a guardianship to the process. However, I think that they are approaching the refusal of candidates to show up at debates wrong. Get an impersonator. Get that guy from Fox. I can't think of his name right now. He does a great Trump impression. And have it.
Actually, AI is the big thing, man.
Yeah.
Have you? There's a guy that goes that's on TikTok.
Oh, that's a fucking great idea, Dave. That's exactly what you should do. If I had $1 million and give me a year, but that's exactly what I would do. Is I would put on a debate, and I would have AI Trump. Since Donald Trump isn't willing to be here, we've asked ChatGPT to answer this in the style of Donald Trump.
Yeah. So there's a guy on TikTok who has basically he's playing like Call of Duty or one of those, multiplayer gun games, and it's Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Donald Trump and sometimes George Bush, and they're playing each other's and insulting each other, and the voice is pretty good, and it would be the dialogue is good enough to make you think that it sounds like these guys, but I mean that it's not, but yeah, start making chat GPT candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Howard Stern put on a Trump versus Bernie debate where he hired impersonators to do it, and it was excellent. I mean, the Bernie guy was, we are leading in several key demographics. Among women who saved their placenta, we are polling at 85%.
I saw that. I remember that. They were really good at impersonating both Trump and
people who bicycle to work.
Bicycle work. Yeah,
90%.
That is a core Bernie constituency.
Exactly.
But like I said, it's not just not just the White House that's coming up in 2024. You got your House races. House is perilously thin for the Republicans, and they haven't been doing the best job of running the show there.
My
Been
gosh.
kind of a shit show. And next week is the end of the continuing resolution. So it's November 17th is the cutoff, and
yeah, are they gonna burn what's his name?
well, I don't know. I don't know what is the deal that he's proposing that he's talked about, that he wants to have a deal to keep the government running for past the holidays.
Right.
So another continuing resolution.
But
what he wants to extract out of the Democrats for that, though.
yeah, because I mean, what are the Democrats going to agree to in the Senate? I mean,
Yeah. And again, not only in 2024 are we seeing House races, but we also have a bunch of Senate races. And for the Democrats to hold on to the Senate has gotten a whole lot harder, because one of those Senate races was Joe Manchin,
right.
one of the few
That's
red
he
states.
red. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to flip. So in a Senate that is 54 or 51 to 49. It's going to, at best case scenario for the Democrats, because they are defending a whole lot more seats than the Republicans. See, the Democrats are, let's see, the 23 held seats that they're defending to 11 Republican held seats. And the Republican held seats, there's really not much of a chance to flip unless something goes completely haywire.
Right.
For likely Republican seats, they've got not Tim Scott, but Rick Scott out of Florida, Ted Cruz in Texas. The other states that have elections for Republican senators: Indiana, which is an open race, Missouri, Mississippi, North Dakota, two Nebraska races because there was a replacement.
I mean,
Uh,
Texas is interesting,
Texas is interesting. That's the likely Republican. Cruz is not well liked even amongst Republicans,
right?
but he's the Republican nominee, so
But
I don't
also,
think they're going to be too keen on turning over to the Democrats.
but also, Texas has been trending blue.
It has, but not enough.
Yeah, I wonder if you could bring in, a dynamic, a Stacey Abrams type. Maybe it's Beto O'Rourke.
No, that ship sailed. I think
Yeah, no. I don't mean to. I don't mean to be the candidate. I mean to be the person that really organizes a voter registration, get out the vote, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're
I
gonna need
mean,
a massive operation. Now, do I think Texas eventually flips? I do. I do. I think it becomes a
yeah,
battleground state. If the United
because
States lasts that long, but it's gonna eventually happen.
yeah, Texas is an urban state. I mean, even though it's huge and it's vast and everything, 3 of the top 10 largest cities in the United States are in Texas,
Yeah.
and
And
so
and
cities vote blue.
and where Republicans are hemorrhaging voters is the suburbs, which has been
Yep.
kind of the key to their revival was taking the suburbs and converting those into Republican voters. With the abortion stuff and some of the other cultural warrior stuff, has really just spoken to the hinterland folks, the flyover country, as they say. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, there really isn't a chance for the Democrats to pick up, and there are two vulnerable Democrats, and one's not really a Democrat, Kristen Sinema in Arizona, which
Right.
may lead for that might be a reason why she goes to the no labels ticket as a presidential or vice presidential candidate.
Right.
And Sherrod Brown out of Ohio. Ohio, of course, has been trending Republican, not rock red Republican. We saw that. That there are
Abortion.
issues that
Well, and I think the
Republicans will
Democrats,
show up and drive Democrats to the polls as well.
yeah, and I think the Democrats are really going to, keep banging the abortion issue because
Oh yeah, it's a winner.
they think it's a winner.
It is a
The only
everywhere
problem
there's
is it more of a winner than the economy is a loser?
that's I mean that is the big thing with these races.
And can they duck the economy as a loser by not having Joe Biden as their candidate? I don't know.
I don't think they can do it if they keep Kamala Harris. If she becomes the
Right.
candidate, I think
I mean,
it's going to have to
Brashear,
be it's going to have to be like a Gavin Newsom.
yeah, Brashear never had Biden come out and campaign for him.
Yep.
Right. I mean, he steered far away. There are, for people who don't know, Donald Brashear is the Democratic governor of Kentucky,
Who just won re-election.
just won re-election. He was elected the first time on the heels of an enormous scandal.
Yeah.
And this time he won on his own merits, but he won on a campaign in an election on a campaign based around abortion. And, I mean, I do think that it's an extremely blue issue. It would be interesting. The next step, of course, is going to be cannabis for Kentucky because the former tobacco states should be making fortunes growing cannabis,
Yes.
but they're not
Nope.
because they're dumb.
Although Virginia's, if they ever get around to opening dispensaries,
Right. I mean, they will.
they will eventually. But I mean, it's
Right. Virginia and Maryland have it coming. It's funny. I have a friend who's getting ready to start growing industrial hemp in Maryland, in Southern Maryland,
nice.
and he's really excited about it because nobody else is doing it here. He's going to be the first guy, and that usually first to market is worth some money.
And the dumb thing is that the way that everything is so patchwork in the country that you're kind of there for Maryland and getting it across borders becomes an issue. For
You can't, right? You still cannot transport cannabis across borders.
yeah.
at all.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Which is stupid.
oh,
And
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
considering the fact that the president could change that with an executive order, the president could dial cannabis down to level 0, and now people could ship it across the borders. And the government has the right to
Banking,
regulate,
all that stuff. Yeah.
exactly, to regulate interstate commerce. So it would be nice if they got off their ass and they did that stuff. But
Oh no. I mean, you might
Mhm.
hear Biden make. I mean, this is kind of the standard Democratic ploy is that when the campaign starts heating up, that he'll to reach out to younger voters
yeah,
to make promises about cannabis, which he did in 2020. He still hasn't done shit for it. So
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
And of
take
course,
it with a
remember,
grain of salt when you hear this stuff.
Kamala is a cop. She busted people, separated families with cannabis prosecutions.
She did.
Meantime, laughing about the fact that while she was in college, she smoked it.
Yep.
So irritating. What's our country?
We're going to do country next time we do a free for all. I think that's how we're going to do it because we spend so much time on our topic. We'll
Okay.
get into the quiz, but I did want to show you. So we know it's going to be a long election season coming up. There are things that you can do. We talked about them a couple weeks ago, especially when it comes to misinformation, news, things like that. Knowing where you're getting your sources from, verifying your sources. Don't just share a headline because it conforms to your personal opinions. Check out the article, check out the sources, make sure that actually it is legit. Like I saw an article because we were looking up a story earlier tonight about Pastor Greg Locke. All I saw was a news story on a questionable site, so I wasn't going to share it. But there are other things that you can do. There's a organization that I've been involved with called The People, thepeople.org. Let me share the caption here. So, The People, it is a nonpartisan group that really seeks to find solutions on voting issues, increase access to voting, allowing people to vote in multiple ways, not just having to show up on election day, stand out in a line and do that, but things like voting from home, expanding access to voting from home, having some of our folks are from Arizona where they pretty much conduct their elections in via mail. So let me share the screen.
This is the guy from Melrose, right?
Yes.
Andrew Shue,
Andrew Shue, yeah.
also a soccer player.
Elizabeth Shue's brother.
Yes.
What?
So Andrew
Melrose,
Shue,
Melrose Place was a TV show.
I know. No, I know. That is exactly who the fuck I'm thinking it is.
yes. So
Yep.
Andrew Shue started an organization called Do Something that does volunteer work and stuff like that. Encourages young people to get out into their communities. And one of the things he wanted to start was a more election centric, but not nonpartisan. Back in 2019, he brought people from around the country, 100 delegates to this national convention, of which I was one of those people, to talk about issues. And there was the cool thing that we found out that while we were talking to one another was, um, we may have differences in political opinions, but when it comes to the things that we're passionate about, and the when it comes to brass tacks in our lives, we all have like the same wants and needs, not exactly the same, but we want to take care of our families. We want to make sure our families are happy and healthy. We want government to to the extent that it is in our lives, to work better, to be more responsive. And so we crafted a declaration. But one of the things that I do on the Voting Rights Committee is come up with things like the safe at home voting. So voting from your kitchen table, because to me, I think that makes more sense than actually going to a booth. Um, you get the ballot in the mail. You sit down at the kitchen table and you vote. And if you have a question about a candidate that's on the ballot, like, I mean, how many times have you gone to the ballot and you get down to like page 5 of the electronic ballot that you're voting on, and you see a race, and you're like, what the hell is a county surveyor? Who the hell is that? What is that job? What does that job entail? What am I?
Surveyor, I don't even know her.
So it gives you a chance to go and do the research on your own, which you're not able to do in the polling booth. Don't do that because it takes forever when you vote that way. But yeah, so you kill two birds with one stone. You're able to vote comfortably, vote in your own time, and get the ballot back to the box, and then be able to be a much more informed voter. And the other thing is peace at the polls. So we've seen, we saw this last week. We're hearing that election counters are receiving, ballots with and mail with, uh, you know, I think they put fentanyl in it, which is, that's not how fentanyl works. But, um, you know, uh, we're trying to create and people being against the idea of if I lose, then it's someone else's fault, and we need to have some kind of violent response to this. We saw it in 2020. We saw people attacking election workers. So committing to peace during not only during the election, but committing to peace after the election while the ballots are being counted. So Dan, you're on mute.
No, I'm just kidding. I want to plug one other site too, since we're talking about disinformation, ways to avoid disinformation. I do occasionally think that it's good to have biased media because biased media pursues a story that an unbiased media might not. They've got an
Mhm.
axe to grind, and so they dig into it, right? Nobody digs into Republican sex scandals like Democrats who want to bust their hypocrisy. Um, so there's a website, which our friend Crystal Woodworth from Maryland. I'm not sure what her last name is. But she works for them. It's called allsides.com. And if you go to allsides.com, every news story that's out there, every major news story, they try to dig in and find a right-wing version of the story, a left-wing version of the story, and a centrist version of the story. And there you go. Yeah, this is it. And so you can look at this one right here. I mean, it's interesting because, of course, uh, and there's a scale too. You can see sort of how far left they are, how center they are, how right they are. Daily Caller is pretty far right, as you can see. It's a weird world that Washington Post is marked as left, but I guess compared to where the media has gone, Washington Post is certainly left. But back in the day, Washington Post was more conservative of things. So again, you
Wow.
dig into all these things, and they do a really nice job of sort of looking through and trying to find a balanced version, a right-wing version, and a left-wing version, so that you can read everybody's iterations of the story and then form your own opinion based on a wide variety of things.
Yeah, this is good stuff. I'm gonna pay for
This
this.
is good stuff. Thank you both.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, use whatever resources, and if you have a question about news stories or you get something put into and you're not sure, you can reach out to me, run it by me, and say, hey, I saw this, and I don't know if this is true or not. Um, I'm not always going to be the complete arbiter of BS or not, but I'll give my damnedest effort to get down to the heart of the matter at least. So, but yeah, that's these are some good resources. So yeah, all sides. I like that.
Yep. It's a nice thing. Crystal does a nice job there. Um, all right. How about a non-biased quiz?
Well, it's from CNN. It's got to
All
have
right. So it's a left-wing quiz.
yeah.
I wonder if there's a right-wing news quiz.
Uh,
Right.
right wing news quiz.
I'm
True or
looking at it.
false? Donald Trump won the 2020.
Right. Exactly. Right, right. So the first question is, how many points did Donald Trump actually win the election by?
Uh-huh.
A, 10,000. B, 100,000. C, 250,000. D, there was no actual election.
What should happen to Fox News after they retracted their the call of the Arizona election in 2020? Firing squad? All
Yeah.
right, news quiz time. As always, the news quiz, 10 questions. News of the week. It looks like some kind of cartoon of some sort. There's Wells Fargo. These are our context clues for the week to help us with some of these questions because I didn't really pay attention.
I
to
can't believe Wells Fargo's in the news again. I hadn't heard anything about that.
And there was a bunch of people cheering on. I'm assuming that's election related.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's link.
Let us start. Remember, you
Um,
can always chime in. We'll share your answers with the group. All right, question number one. How many Republican candidates participated in the presidential debate this week? I'm going to need help on this one because I did not watch it.
I didn't watch it either.
You should shrink that a little bit so we can like see the question and the choices at the same time.
Let's see.
Control minus. Hopefully.
There we go. All right.
Thank you.
Answers are 3, 5, 8, or 10. We know Donald Trump wasn't there.
Trump wasn't there.
And I'm sure there's some excluded folks like Doug Burgum.
Nikki was there. DeSantis, Rhonda, Vivek, Tim Scott, and the Shadow. So 5. I agree with Heidi.
There you go.
5.
So we got Heidi with 5. Dan agrees with her. I'm going to go with it because I don't know any better. Correct. 5 presidential candidates met the criteria to participate in Wednesday's third primary debate in Miami.
Oh, Chris Christie. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Christie. Yeah, and you're right. He as far and Craig got the answer as well. Christie.
If he weren't Chris Christie, if he hadn't sold his soul to work with Donald Trump, if he hadn't blocked those lanes on the GW tunnel or turnpike bridge, if he hadn't done all that shady shit, he would be a reasonable dude.
I don't think he would.
he's a
He would win
Republican.
either way because he's speaking.
Right. He's a Republican elected from a blue
Derek
state.
Gropenfuhrer.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. Which labor union ended a historic strike this week? Actors, teachers, carpenters, or auto workers? I actually know this one, I think. Dan, do you know?
It was the actors. The auto workers have reached an agreement, but the strike is not over.
They haven't voted yet.
They haven't voted yet.
Oh, and look who answered. It's
Uh-huh.
Eve, my wife. Hey, baby.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? I'll take this moment to say happy anniversary to my wife. Thursday is going to be our 21st anniversary. So our
Yeah.
marriage could go to the bar this week.
That is interesting because we are also a 2001 wedding.
Nice.
We were October. And so we
we're
should have a
2002.
conversation. Oh, we're 2001.
So
What year is it now?
it's 23.
Okay, I lied. Then we just passed 22.
There you go.
Okay. Like I can remember exactly when we were married. I have no idea what year it is now.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Um,
I'll give you a pass on that one, man.
okay.
Oh yeah, these
all right.
actors, the saggy actors.
Yep.
So SAG-AFTRA, the union that represents about 160,000. That's a lot. Actors reached a tentative deal with the Hollywood film and TV studios, ending months-long strike. And everybody's like, "When are you guys going to get back to filming stuff?" I'm sure fairly soon.
Pretty quickly. It's interesting, My source for most of this stuff is Felicia Day, and she talked about the fact that a lot of the
Be still my beating heart. Sorry, Leah.
exactly, yeah, but it's she talked about the fact that there's a lot of negotiations about, for example, did Carrie Fisher's estate get paid for the Star Wars things that she was in after she died?
That's an interesting. And what
So
happens,
that's
like,
all.
of course, with AI, and I think that was one of the sticking points with what happens.
Yep.
Um, uh, they're going to be able to do things like revive dead people, finish a film with
Yeah.
dead people. Where an actor
Absolutely.
dies in the middle of filming, they'll be able to do stuff that, as
Right.
AI
And
gets better, they're gonna be able to do that. And what happens to that money and how?
right. Right. It's a very interesting question. So supposedly there's a lot of that stuff is covered in this
Interesting.
contract.
Right on. All right, question number 3. Which city was enveloped in a blanket of toxic smog this week? Mexico City, London, Beijing, or New Delhi? Heidi says Mexico City.
I didn't hear anything about it, which means it's probably not London or Beijing.
I mean, Beijing has its. I mean, remember they had
Definitely
to actually.
has pollution
Yeah,
problems.
they had pollution problems. They had to do all kinds of weird finagling when they had the Winter Olympics there, because smog tends to be worse in winter.
Yeah.
And
They essentially shut down a lot of factories and
yeah,
all sorts of stuff.
cars getting into the
So
city, things like that. Yeah,
I would go with Heidi. Hey, where's Janice?
where is Janice?
You
Janice,
should message her and ask her where she's at.
glorious, come out and
Yeah.
play.
All right. I'm not going to message her right now, but Janice, when
Oh,
you
it was
watch
it?
this repeat,
Oh, New
It's in New
Delhi.
Delhi.
I mean, New Delhi's got. They're all 4 cities. London probably to the least extent of these 4 cities.
yeah, I mean, right. London obviously had this happen during the Churchill
Mhm.
administration too. Um, but this is the same thing that finished off Old Delhi. So
You can't get the meats from the old Delhi, so.
exactly, gabagool.
Yeah, toxic haze in the Indian capital of New Delhi reached hazardous levels for
All
several
right,
consecutive days this week. Airborne particulate pollution reached parts per million of
80
2.0,
times.
80 times
Jesus,
the World Health Organization's recommended limit. Holy shit. All right,
that's
question
pretty terrible.
number 4. Roll that up a little bit. Which workers in which field are resigning at an alarming rate in the United States due to threats and harassment? Bus,
I know this one.
bus drivers, nurses, election workers, or border patrol agents?
And I've got a question. I'm going to make a statement that is going to make Dr. Moulton furious. It's election workers, and in Massachusetts, when we count the ballots, uh, we total up all the write-ins, but we don't read them unless we know that they're statistically significant, and that saves a lot of hassle for election workers.
I don't know that yeah, it's long hours. In recently in West Virginia, we've increased pay for election workers, and we've instituted shift work for election workers, which makes sense because polls are open generally 12 hours, and you have to be there hour or so before the polls open, and a couple hours at least after they close.
Mm.
And the courts can come in this last election, I think in Mississippi, they due to issues with some of the election, the electronic voting booths, had to keep polls open for well over 15 hours. So, if you're starting at 6 a.m. for a 7 a.m. poll opening and not getting off until 10:30, and then having to count votes after that, it makes sense that, you're losing poll workers. They've always had issues getting poll workers, and that's why poll workers generally are old retired folks,
Or strippers. Dum-dum. Poll workers.
different poll. That's a different
Oh,
poll.
sorry. I'll be here all week.
But yeah,
Mm.
election workers. I mean, it's a tough job, and it's only getting worse with the the threats and harassment and the stuff that's been going on. With
There is I have a white paper on this. It's up on at let.live, but the right solution to this is to remove the human element as much as possible. Instead of having, and this solves the write-in problem as well. There's no reason for people to be handwriting on their ballot type.
well,
Even if your candidate is the artist formerly known as Prince, write that instead of the swiggle that's not on the keyboard.
well, I mean, you don't. That works unless you're voting absentee. Then you get paper ballot. There are the states where they do paper ballots in the mail. That. But I will say that even in the federal government, they've got optical scanning, OCR technology to be able to read handwriting.
Pretty
Yeah,
good,
it's
yeah.
pretty
And,
good, and you should be able to
and
filter
you
out.
can also, you know, you can theoretically get the ballot, run it through a printer, or I don't know. That's an interesting point. Absentee, we'll figure that part
Although
out. But
West Virginia actually they do app voting, so you can vote on a with blockchain technology. You
right,
can vote on an app. If you're overseas or military, you can vote. You can do your vote on an app, which I think
right,
we really need to start looking into that type of stuff.
yeah, that can be done safely, and I agree with
Yeah.
that too. I mean that the most important thing, and again, this is in my white paper as well, um, is that once you get to electronic voting, entirely electronic voting, all the results should be easily replicable and do it again, so that I can take all the ballots and count them up, and Dave can take all the ballots and count them up, and AJ can take all the ballots and count them up, and we all come up with exactly the same answer from the same ballots.
Yeah, there's still going
Um,
to be a human element in that. There's got to be some audit capabilities and things like that. Um, Before we
yeah,
completely start trusting the machines, that you kind of want to go through that. But yeah, I mean, I think ear early results can be processed fairly quickly. Um, I think a lot of people were used to getting most election results, especially as we got into electronic voting, getting most election results the same night. Um,
yeah,
and with with COVID and some of the other stuff where we actually did start doing more voting from home and things like that, people were angry that we weren't getting the result that night because we still have a whole bunch of ballots still coming in because the mail sucks.
right. But if you did electronics, and then I mean, that's another interesting thing about it is uh, I don't remember where the hell this is. Well, there's a place that doesn't count the absentee ballots unless they know that they're statistically significant. Because why? Uh,
Well, I mean, I don't know. Not every race is going to be within that parameter. So, I mean, if you're basing it on the presidential election, that's one thing. But there's going to be a race there that's. I mean, you may have a race. You may have a smaller
no,
election where you have six people on six races, and all of them are blowouts. I will concede that, but if you have a ballot that's got like 300 races on it, like some of these ballots, like California and where everything's elected, Pennsylvania, where everything is elected, then um, you're going to have at least one race that kind of goes within that statistical margin.
sure. And then those, I mean, those do have to be counted.
Yeah,
I mean, well, The real goal should be get it to the point that it doesn't require a human to read a write-in candidate.
And then count the, and then release that data and let people know that
Yeah,
so and so
exactly.
voted for Dave's Hairy Balls, like I encourage people to do when you don't have a candidate to vote for in a race.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll go to the polls
Mhm.
and you'll have a race like in West Virginia. I saw there was a race that no one ran for. It was the talked about earlier, county surveyor. Nobody ran for it. All it does is become a patronage office that the county can parse out to somebody.
Right.
But that's
Well,
the
and we
behind
have
the Chuck and
so
them did in
could you do
Pennsylvania.
seeing as we have the architect here of the Moulton Maneuver, could you do a Moulton Maneuver for that job?
There are 2 races where I've seen where we haven't had choices before. One was the, it's like wastewater division management type thing, and then
Mhm.
the other is surveyor. So
Are they nonpartisan?
they're both nonpartisan.
Yeah, so then you can't do it.
Well, no, I can. I can as a run as a, in a nonpartisan race. Um,
No, but the way the Moulton Maneuver works is in partisan races,
this is
major party candidates have to register 2 weeks before non-major party candidates.
yes.
So Chuck had this system where they found all the races that were partisan races in which neither Republican nor Democrat ran, and then they found a Libertarian to run for those races, and because they were the only candidates, then they
But
won.
you can still do it. It takes a little bit more legwork, like in states where it's maybe you don't have a petitioning threshold. Like for West Virginia, you don't. For some of these races, you pay a fee or whatever. Uh, but you go to the county clerk's office for a countywide race and say, "Hey, are there any filed candidates for this race?" And if they say no, file for the race on the drop
On the very
the
last
very
day.
last day, and then waltz
Yeah,
to victory. Um,
that's not a bad idea.
it's not. I mean, there are ways to do that if you want to. But there are some like if I did the surveyor job, because I'm
Right.
not a licensed surveyor, the county doesn't have to use me as the surveyor. They can go to an
Mhm.
outside. It's just basically I'm sitting there. It's a non-paid gig. It doesn't really matter. Same with the environmental job. You have to have some kind of environmental degree um, to serve in the office. So there are some things to look at, but yeah. But if you go into it and you see that no one's running for an office, or you got like 1,500 judges that you got to vote for, and they're all unopposed, you can always enter Dave's Harry Balls as your write-in candidate, because
Good to know.
that's they're always running.
It's funny.
All right. We're still on the quiz. I digressed. 5. Which state said yes to making abortion a constitutional right? We saw the context clue earlier of the people cheering. Is it Alabama,
We already said it.
Arkansas,
Ohio.
Idaho, or Ohio?
OH.
No.
OH. OH.
In the words
IO.
in the words of the Pretenders, hey ho, way to go, Ohio.
Ain't no place to go, Ohio.
Oh,
Thank you, Chuck.
we got a
Dr.
participant.
Swinton.
Heidi got it as well. Good stuff. Question number 6. More than 30,000 pounds of which food product were recently recalled? Chicken nuggets, hot dogs, peanut butter, or moose turds?
Looks like peanut butter.
Context clue. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either with chicken nuggets or hot dogs.
Let's see if the audience gets
Yeah.
this. I don't
I'm gonna
know.
phone a friend
Right.
in
I
the
mean,
audience.
there are a few things that are more questionable than chicken nuggets,
Bunny McNuggets.
but hot dogs is one of them.
Uh-oh, we got a
Right?
couple of Aaliyah got it. All right.
All right. We got consensus of nuggets then.
The nugs. So don't go to
Yeah.
McDonald's. I'll let Craig get-
I'm going to go with Mrs. V on this
All
one.
right. The nugs.
Yep.
And not the good nugs.
Ugh.
If you know, you know.
Small metal pieces.
30,000 pounds of chicken nuggets. Tyson Foods. 30,000 pounds of chicken nuggets after some consumers reported finding small metal pieces in their dino
Those
nuggets.
are prob-
Oh, and the dino nuggets too.
I mean, those
That's
are
terrifying.
probably shotgun pellets from when somebody was hunting the nuggets.
Oh, Dan. Question number 7. Phone networks and internet connections were down for millions of folks on Wednesday. In which country? France, Germany, Australia, or China?
What the hell was I doing?
I know. I'm like, I
I
don't
don't know. I didn't pay attention either. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about.
help us, audience. You're our only hope.
Apparently, because we ain't paying a damn attention.
Did we get a context clue on this one? I don't think so.
I'm gonna, yeah. If I were gonna guess,
Oh,
maybe I heard something about China, but I
China.
don't know. China. It was Deng Xiaoping.
Well, I mean, if
Yes,
there's a
Gigi.
mysterious internet outage to happen, China is, one of those places I would expect it to happen. Like, but it would be for
Yep.
nefarious reasons.
Exactly. Chuck's comment is
Free
pretty funny there.
flavoring.
Yeah. Right. It's right. It's iron flavored chicken.
So
All
Yeah,
right.
the audience is
nobody
not helping
nobody
us.
knows.
they're not saying
Nobody
shit.
knows. I'm going to guess China just because of all the other economies. All the other economies are capitalist societies, and so I don't think they would have. I think communists are more likely to have a problem.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
All right, let's do China. It was Australia.
Damn it!
Whoa.
Australia's second
What a
largest
novel trip
telecommunications.
on the bobby.
Yeah, second largest telecommunications provider experienced an unexplained nationwide outage, creating chaos, service disruptions. Train networks, rideshare companies, banks, hospitals across the country were impacted for hours. Heidi said, "Deutschland, the
Yeah.
Bundesrepublik." No, sadly.
Alice, über Deutschland.
All right, question number 8. America's banking system was widely impacted this week by which issue? Hacked ATM, counterfeit checks, delayed deposits, or loan scams? I actually know this one.
I do not know this one,
'Cause
but if I were going to guess,
we actually
I would guess hacked ATMs, but
know,
I don't know.
because we got communications on this from at work. Although I don't bank with Wells
Interesting.
Fargo, so it was mainly big
Very
bank.
good.
It was the delayed deposit. Well,
Mrs. V says delayed deposit.
yeah, it was delayed
All right.
deposits. There you go, Craig. Good stuff. All right. Question number 9. Which popular video game is being developed into a live action film? Legend of Zelda, The Sims, Grand Theft Auto, or Roblox? I hope it's not Grand Theft Auto.
It's Legend of Zelda.
It is
I know
Legend of
this.
Zelda. And that was one of the context clues that we had up the top here.
Yeah, I've been watching Tears of the Kingdom.
All right.
So, do they have who's going to be playing
Dun, dun, dun.
Link?
No, not yet, because all those bitches just got off strike.
There you go.
Yep. Everybody else also says Zelda.
Yep, Heidi and the Beeps.
Right.
Yay.
And they already announced that Justin Bieber is going to play Link.
Justin Bieber is going to get the ramen hair back.
Exactly.
Oh no, that's Timberlake. Never mind. Wrong Justin. Question
So
number
many
10.
Justins.
So many Justins.
Yeah.
Question number 10. A hit song from 1988 won big at the Country Music Awards this week. Which was it? I know Aaliyah knows this one because we talked about
I
this.
know this one.
AJ knows it as
knows
well.
it?
Yes.
I just want to say I saw the original artist play this on the street in Harvard Square.
What?
That's pretty
when she was a
badass.
busker.
That's pretty badass.
Because I'm old.
Greg. The
Yep.
Babes. Heidi. Good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Fast Car by
Everybody got
Tracy
this one.
Chapman. Won it 1988. Her hit Fast Car. Won Song of the Year at the CMAs because it was covered by Luke Combs. There was kind of controversy about Luke profiting greatly off of this song, but it's not the first time a song's been covered.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
and
that's
done
insane.
well. Like,
Did these same people bitch about
"Ooh Baby, I Love Your Way"?
no, I will always love you. Whitney Houston covering Dolly Parton, right? Bodyguard. That was a huge hit.
Oh my God,
That's true.
that was the second worst singing that I've heard. My roommate in college, I had a for like 3 weeks.
Bittersweet.
No, stop it.
No.
There's the mute button. Damn it. All right, we got 8 out of 10. But I had a college roommate. We recruited this guy from Mississippi Junior College to play football. He came. He was my roommate for 3 weeks. He was terribly, miserably homesick. His girlfriend was back in Mississippi, and every day I'd get off the elevator coming back from class, I'd hear him singing "I Will Always Love You," and he was awful. And I'd just turn around and go back in the elevator and just go over to the fraternity house and drink. So, all right.
Good times.
Oh, so yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's awesome. So good,
Oh,
good
yeah.
on Tracy. Because if you know anything about the music industry, the copyright and all that stuff, for artists losing their songs to recording labels and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a brutal industry. So good on Tracy for keeping a hold of her song. All right, so
Yay.
8 out of 10 this week, a B. We'll have to be better next week. Yeah, it doesn't matter. All
We need to
right.
pay attention this week, I guess.
I know I didn't really watch the news this week because I just had such a weird,
didn't
busy
either.
week at work and it's only gonna get
Same.
worse this next
And the
week.
time changed and shit got
The
weirder.
time change, so much hockey going on.
Yes.
I mean, if you say
The
so.
Bears played Thursday night. And then, there's a lot of other news stuff going on too. So
Yeah. Let me give a plug for my other show. If you like the Buffalo Sabres or are just interested in hockey, check out the Scabbard. Next episode is on Tuesday night as the Sabres take on the Boston Bruins. So Dan, Boston versus Buffalo, first time this season, first of 4 games. The Bruins, much like everybody else in the league, had the Sabres number last season, and for several seasons, really, as the Sabres have been kind of awful. So, but 6 o'clock on Tuesday night, come watch the Scabbard. Remember, I did predict accurately both the last 2 episodes a goal scorer in the game. So if you play any daily fantasy or anything like that, you might get some key information. Made Dan some moolah.
yeah, I was going to say I want to pop up my bet screen, but Dave gave me a key tip.
Yeah,
Let's see what bets.
I didn't do so well. I mean, last night I predicted the Penguins score, and this guy actually had not had a goal at all this season, but he just roasted us in the preseason. So Drew O'Connor scored his first goal of the season. I said that on the air. I said, watch out for Drew O'Connor because this guy just roasts us. And he did score. The guy said
Well,
the Sabres, Casey Middlestat, did not score as the Sabres were shut out. So
these are the 2 bets that Dave suggested. He said that JJ
Turca.
Paterka would score a goal. I bet $5 and I won 20. And then thought the Sabres would win. And I bet $5 and I won $4.23.
There you go.
For those of you who are confused about that, when you bet with an online gambler, there's a thing called the VIG. Essentially, they take a small percentage of however much you bet, and that's how they make their money. So they don't care if you win or lose because
It's how you play the game.
Well, they adjust the odds
Yes.
so that there's always even money on both sides of the bet.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the Scabbard, as it's called, I predict that you will make money.
Play responsibly. I will always say play responsibly because I don't gamble. I get on Dan's pools, but I'm usually the first week out. So, but when it comes to like DraftKings, yeah, it's just a bad idea. It's a good way for me to lose money. So, but I am predicting stuff. So come watch the show, and maybe I'll give you a tip.
Let me just say though that if you were to bet $1 on the game, and you can just bet $1,
Sure.
and then you won, right?
Yeah.
And then you doubled your money, and you doubled it again, and you doubled again. Very quickly, you're going to have won $1 billion.
I think this is how it. You trying to confuse, man.
2, 4, 8, 16, 32,
Yeah, I know.
64,
I know the
128, 256, 1,012. Well, I mean, it's stupid. But Dave and I know that obviously 2 to the 10th is 1,000, 2 to the 20th is 1,000,000, 2 to the 30th is 1,000,000,000.
hell I do.
So you just have to win 30 times in a row, doubling your money
That's all.
to make $1 billion.
That's all.
That's all. That is all, and that's probably going to stop. Like,
And it does. What's interesting about it is it doesn't mean the Sabres have to win 30 times in a row, because that isn't
not gonna
happening.
happen. They can't even win 2 in a row.
Right.
But
so, yeah, it's a tough shot, but
play responsibly. Don't blow your mortgage money on gambling.
Don't blow your mortgage money unless you are really sure.
It's not even then. Not even then, because you could have. I mean, how many people? I mean, I'm sure there were some people who bet the Florida Panthers last year in the playoffs, starting the playoffs to win that first round. There are some people that did it. That's majority of the people were picking the Boston Bruins because they had this record-breaking season, and then it just went away.
So Chuck Moulton, it's funny. Chuck Moulton put in there and says suckers bet buying a Powerball ticket. I mean, it's an interesting thing because you can't win Powerball if you don't buy a ticket.
True.
So buying a ticket actually increases your percentage chance of winning by an infinite percentage. Which, that's because obviously you can't divide, divide by 0.
You could. Somebody drops that ticket, you find it, you didn't pay, and you get a ticket.
Interesting. You would have to go looking for it. But yes. But my point is that you can't divide by 0. However, my wife's company recently had a educational thing for the young kids where they did the whole Chuck Norris can do this.
Oh yeah,
like Chuck Norris can move the thing, and 2 of the best ones were Chuck Norris can divide by 0, and the other one was Chuck Norris can believe it's not butter, which I don't think many people got, but I thought it was good. Funny.
My favorite Chuck Norrisism is Chuck Norris was the 4th Magi who gave Jesus the gift of beard. The other 3 Magi were jealous and cut him out of the Bible, and all 3 Magi were found dead of roundhouse-related kicks.
I like it. All right. Well, good show.
Yeah, good show. Next week,
as usual.
Yeah, next week's gonna be interesting because I'm working overtime on Sunday, but we'll figure out a topic, another timely topic. Something will happen. We'll have a free for all.
Yeah, I mean, I know the news cycle's been really slack, but we'll get something in there.
If not, we have a free for all Sunday, and we'll do.
And then the week after that, I am not going to be able to do the show because it's Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, I think we'll take Thanksgiving weekend off.
All right. The only purple you'll be around will be turkeys.
I mean, I'll be around, but I'm already turkey anyway. So
exactly.
All right, everybody.
Well, say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie. We'll talk to everybody next week. Have a great one, everybody.
Good night.